that Dr. Wood just gave, I think you could scratch out Mayo Clinic and flip Blue Cross in there, because I don't think we disagree with anything. We're not opposed to many of the insurance reforms that are being proposed. We want everybody to have coverage. We're okay with taking pre-existing condition off the table. We're okay with guaranteed issue. There has to be an enforceable mandate to make sure people buy it, so that people aren't in the ambulance on the way to the hospital then declaring they want insurance. People have to, if they're going to be a mandate, they have to be able to pay for it. The issue, like the Congressman talked about, is if there's a public option on the bottom, will they sit across the table and negotiate with Mayo Clinic like we do? And I think our answer right now is, if you look at the Medicare data and the map that Dr. Wood put on the screen, is the answer is probably no. The public option is going to pay 30% less than what the private market pays, which is probably why you see at the top that Blue Cross is on top of there with probably a more expensive plan. We negotiate with 98, 99, almost 100% of the providers in the state. So you have the options that we're talking about. Will the public option pay taxes? The taxes that we pay as a federal, while we are a nonprofit, we pay state and federal taxes. So if a public option comes in and doesn't pay taxes and pays providers less, they're going to be cheaper. But it's going to be an unlevel playing field, and it's actually going to exacerbate these maps and actually make it worse. And we feel that Medicare should be the place where payment reform begins. If we don't solve payment reform, all is for naught. I don't think we're going to solve any problems. If we want to continue down the road of insurance reform, we're okay with that as long as it's the right reforms. But we also need to do payment reform. If we don't do that, as Dr. Wood pointed out, it's not going to work.
Doug, I would have Doug currently, and I appreciate Bill saying this, but one thing for some of you to think about when you're talking about payment reform in Medicare, don't think that reform is there just because it's a government option on that. The reform in Medicare is so critical because it is such a large organization, it is very successful, and it's a cost driver across the spectrum. Would that be fair to say? This isn't a critique of Medicare and the delivery of itself as much as it is on this payment of value. Is this true?
That's true. Medicare actually works by setting its prices at a fixed rate every year. So as Phil noted, we negotiate every 3 years to do a contract. We don't do it every year. The contract, it's about 30 pages. Coming back again to the administrative simplicity that's often offered as something to do with Medicare. Medicare sets the price for every doctor's fee, lab test, hospital visit. It's done in a process every year. It's repeated. It takes 1,100 pages just for the physician fee schedule alone. There's another 1,100 for the hospitals. There's another 800 or so for home health care. It's really complicated. And again, the result is Medicare just says, I'm going to pay you what I say I'm going to pay you. I'm not going to pay you to get better, or I'm not going to pay you for better results. And that's the extent of the reform that we have to get to in payment. There's some other problems too in terms of the story that was just shared with us. At the death of any of us, we have an option to be able to utilize hospice services. Medicare does have hospice services available, but because of the very narrow rules that they apply to when you can use it, it's very difficult for families to find that kind of support for their loved ones. In fact, it's fairly common to get a denial from a medical director. Then you have to wonder, what am I going to do in order to get the care that my loved one would like to have to achieve this passage from life in a dignified fashion. It is very difficult to do it. For me as a provider, I can appeal to a commercial insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, by simply going online and finding the name of the medical director and calling the medical director. In the Medicare program, you cannot get, first thing is you cannot get any information about whether a service is going to be denied or not. There is no advanced coverage determination that's available to you. You have to wait until the thing is denied, and then there's a complex process to go through. I recently responded to a patient who had a service denied, and by the time that she called and asked me to write a letter to get back, it had already gone past the 45 business days that she was allowed to do by Medicare. So it was really quite a frustrating experience for her. It was a more frustrating experience for me because the amount that we were appealing was $97 for a simple blood test. And the amount that they paid me for the 45 minutes to figure out which blood test she needed was $95. So I felt a little underpaid that day.
So, does he go next?
Well, and we're taking a little extra time on these because this is that question from the gentleman is one that's on many of your mind. He'll probably come up again on this as we debate this. And Bill, if your question is the same, please ask it again because as you're seeing it's fairly complex, but you can get to the heart of reform if you listen to the experts on this. So.
Okay, I'm going to call out 2 numbers, and so I can get both of you up here, and then we won't have these delays from now on. Number 071 and number 107. I don't know how I did that.